This week I've been testing this 2019 Lexus UX 200. This is the F Sport trim, and it's Lexus's new compact, smallest crossover that they make. This one starts about 34 grand. It's optioned a little bit higher, but overall it's a pretty nice little luxury crossover. I have some complaints. When I first got this week, I wasn't too crazy about it overall, but I will say the more time that I've spent in it, the more that I've driven it, lived with it, it's grown on me, and I've started to appreciate some of its things. There are still some drawbacks here, but that's why we're making a video and we're going to go over all this stuff. So let's start off in the back here. We've got a pretty high deck loading height here with this beam, and then the trunk is a little bit lower. You have the collapsible cargo cover here, which is kind of nice, easy to remove. You fold it up and you can put it underneath here in a bag if you want, or just lay it flat. This has the run flat tires, so there's no spare tire in the back. You have a couple buttons here to close the lift gate. You can also adjust the height that this sits at in the infotainment up there. Not a ton of space back there, but definitely usable for most people. In the back seat, things get a little bit cheap, a little bit scratchy with their plastics. No door storage. It's a little bit cramped back here, to be honest. A little bit tight. Luckily, you do have some foot room to put your feet under the seats. But for taller passengers, you're definitely going to be a little bit cramped with knee space. It's also a little bit claustrophobic back here. This C-pillar is a little bit wide, creates a little bit of a blind spot, and adds just kind of the overall darkness back here. You do have a couple of cup holders and some USB ports to charge your mobile devices. Up front, though, it's quite an attractive interior. It's a pretty nice looking place to be. Let's go ahead and start this up, and we'll see how it sounds, what it looks like. So, while getting in, I smoked my knee on this week. And this isn't, I guess it's somewhat hard plastic, but actually it drew blood. So something you got to watch out for when you're getting into your UX. If you're going to be getting in like this, it's really, really easy to hurt yourself. And I'm not the first reviewer to complain about that. Kind of a cool graphic at startup. You get this futuristic warp speed display, and then you have this digital dash that also has kind of a physical screen that moves. It's been in Lexuses for quite a while, since the IS was released. Kind of neat. So this takes us to the infotainment. One of my biggest complaints and gripes with this car initially was just this whole system. I have always hated the touchpad. I used to prefer the joystick / mouse. I think it was just a little bit more accurate, a little bit quicker to use. The more I use this touchpad, though, it is okay. It's usable. It just takes some time to get used to and really kind of figure out the inputs and what it does on the screen. So there's a little bit of a learning curve to this. Ultimately, I don't think it's as dangerous as I thought it was. I was like, gosh, I'm just afraid for my life using this infotainment, changing basic controls. But I will say with time and with more use, you do get better at it. And it's just that there are so many deep menus. There's so much adjustability, which is a good thing. But everything is just organized in its own separate menu. And it's really a pretty poor organization of all the features of the car. Lexus really needs to refine this and make it a more minimal, usable system. Luckily, though, you can connect into Apple CarPlay, and that'll pretty much serve all your needs for what you want in your typical use out of a vehicle. You have some nice climate controls are great. You have your heated seats, heated steering wheel controls, all that right there comes to hand easily. And luckily, you can also change stations and do a lot of the usual changes that you need to do on the steering wheel buttons. There's also this new little controller here for passengers, which is very convenient, and drivers, so you don't have to reach up here you can kind of learn to use these without really looking at it. You've got your radio volume knob, media buttons, change tracks, and your tune adjustable knob. There's this little center compartment with a USB device, USB plugs. It opens from both sides. That's kind of neat. Cup holders. One complaint that I do have is there really isn't a good place to put your phone where you can also see it. But I guess Apple CarPlay kind of negates the need for that. You do have wireless charging. Park brake hold button. This doesn't have the 360 reverse camera, but still it's a decent enough camera. I wish it kind of filled more of the screen. You do get this nice wide display, but the reverse camera not utilizing all of that is a little bit of a gripe. Pretty average size glove compartment. And then of course up here you've got your sport, normal, eco buttons, drive modes that you can change thanks to the Lexus LFA. Traction control button, all that stuff, automatic headlights, automatic wipers, many good features. You even have a heads-up display that's kind of hard to see in the daylight. I still haven't really found the menu to adjust that yet. It's just so deep and so dark in there that I'm scared to go in there. I don't know. Lots of nice adjustability to your left here. You have the trip odometer. I love the cruise controls. They're a little bit less intuitive than Lexus's used to be with the control down here, but we'll get into that. Cruise control, radar guided cruise control works quite well in this car. Lane keep assist is okay. So yeah, that pretty much kind of sums up a lot of the ergonomics and the usability of this UX. Let's take it for a little bit of a drive here. We have a 2-liter naturally aspirated engine mated to a CVT. It has this first gear that shifts about 30, 40 miles an hour. So you get a little bit more pickup off the line, which is nice. And then it'll kind of shift into second. It'll simulate gears every now and then, like a 10-speed transmission. But ultimately, this is a pretty stereotypical CVT. There's nothing revolutionary going on here. When you're just driving around normally, it's fine. You don't notice it. But when you need to accelerate or merge on the highway, boy, it makes a lot of noise. We'll hear that up the road a little bit. One advantage, though, to the CVT is you get fantastic fuel mileage. I've been getting 36, 37 miles to the gallon on the readout combined this week. Just recently dropped down a little bit because I did the POV test drive for Winding Road, but ultimately this thing gets a really, really good fuel economy. I believe it's rated for, 37 highway, 29 city or something like that. I think you can pretty easily beat those numbers. I assume it takes regular fuel, so really you're going to be saving a lot of money at the gas pump in this UX. It's a very, very fuel efficient car. I still kind of feel like the sweet spot in this would be the hybrid, because you get an all-wheel drive system. Rear wheels are driven by electric motors, and the only complaint I've heard about the hybrid systems is that the brake pedal is a little bit sensitive. But I'm kind of surprised at that, because that's something that Toyota Lexus have done a pretty good job dialing in recent years. Still, though, I don't have any first-hand experience. I haven't driven one. There's not a lot of power here. 0 to 60s take their time. Merging onto the highway takes its time. It's a responsive car because it's a CVT, but it's not quick by any measure. Let's give it a little bit of an acceleration onto this on-ramp here. We'll even put it into sport mode for whatever that's worth. Those revs just hit the red line and sit there, and it's awful. It's a really terrible noise. It's so loud. It's loud on the inside, it's loud on the outside. There's really not a whole lot of acceleration happening, just noise. It gets the job done. You don't have to do that for every highway entrance, but just to show you guys what it's like, yeah, pretty typical CVT there. It is nice, though. You can kind of simulate these downshifts, and those are pretty responsive, what that's worth. The paddle shifters work well, but again, what's the point? But this is not a sports car. This is not something that people are going to be hustling around. This is a good city car, a good commuter, and for daily use, it's a very easy car to drive and to live with. It's the right size. It's small. It's nimble. On the slightly more dialed-in F-Sport suspension, it actually rides pretty well, and really no major complaints about its drivability other than the obvious CVT woes. But even that said, for a luxury crossover, this is a Lexus. Overall, the NVH is fantastic over bumps, even considering that this has run flat tires. There's a little bit of noise intrusion from those tires at speed and over expansion joints, stuff like that, but really it's quite quiet and really nice and refined in here. All the touch points, the leathers, make you feel like you're in a really premium car, and the levels of sound deadening and padding add to that experience. Let's show you guys cruise control here. Press this button to engage. You can adjust your following distance. Everything is really nicely laid out. It falls to hand easily. You can increase, decrease your speed well. The radar guided cruise control does a nice job of blending your speed differentials if the car pulls in front of you or if you're accelerating and merging over. It's a nice system. The lane keep assist is a little bit less refined. It kind of bounces between the lines a little bit. It's not horrible, but it gets the job done if you need to take your eyes off the road for half a second and fiddle around with the mouse or the touchpad. It's a good enough system. Let's see how it does merging over here into the next lane, passing this truck. It's a little bit slow to accelerate, but it gets us past. It's a nice, smooth system. There's no jerkiness to acceleration to deceleration. It's definitely not in a hurry, but that's just fine. I've been using it all week. It works great. I do like how easy it is to turn on and off some of these systems, like the heads-up display, like the lane keep assist. All that stuff works really well. Sitting at a nice low 1800 RPM at 70 miles an hour on the highway. Pretty decent handling from this too, a lot of good mechanical grip. Only front wheel drive in this F-Sport, but it can hold some pretty high highway entrance speeds around these ramps. Okay, let's do a little bit of an audio test here. We'll get out of Waze, swipe over to our music, playlists, getting a little bit better at using this system at speed. Couple ways to change tracks. You can change it on the steering wheel, change it with the mouse, change it down here. A lot of nice redundancy and buttons. It's a really pretty nice sound system. No complaints here. A little bass heavy, but you can always adjust the sound in your settings. Who knows where that is? Here we go. Audio. General. Yeah, who knows where the sound settings are. Somewhere in there. Ha, here we go. Found it. All the levels are zeroed out. There we go. Yeah, really nice sound system in this Lexus UX. I do like the way this controller is here near the center stack. I don't know, guys. I think that pretty much sums it up. Here's a look at the sunroof. You've got two separate buttons for raising and opening. Mirrors. I mean, a lot of cool Lexus switchgear carried over from the rest of the lineup. You know, you get a lot of the same feel and touch and inputs and features as you do in the more expensive vehicles. This is just a smaller package. Tire pressure monitors in there, a lot of good information in the display, and then when you hit this button, it'll switch over to a sportier looking display where you can kind of see the same information but smaller. These seats are fantastic, super comfortable, pretty average amount of adjustability. You've got lumbar support, you know, the steering wheel is nice. The driving position in here is pretty easy to find a comfortable position. As always, nice high levels of comfort in this Lexus. So, to sum things up, the cons are, you know, they're complaints that I've had with Lexus's infotainment for years. Ultimately, I don't think it's a deal breaker. That wouldn't steer me away from buying this car because you do get used to it and you do get better at using it. And once you get better at using it, it becomes a pretty quick system to use. You know, you get all your settings dialed in, you get everything figured out the way you like it, the way you want it. And you don't really have to fiddle or mess with it again. It's just that since I'm getting in a brand new car every week, I'm changing everything, and I also want to take it out for a drive, and it's frustrating getting that first learning curve figured out. But once you do, honestly, it's not that big of a deal. So if you do buy a Lexus UX or you're driving one, be patient with it. Be safe when you're adjusting things on the road. Either come to a stop and pull off and figure everything out, or use your safety systems if you're on the highway and you need to make a quick adjustment. That's what they're there for. But ultimately, I would not say feel safe using the system at speed on the road. You're gonna crash into something. Otherwise, though, this is a really nice driving car. If you don't need a massive back seat, the front seats are very spacious. There's ample room in here. You know, if you're carting around a family, you probably want to upgrade to something a little bit larger, like the NX, or something even maybe a little bit bigger. I think I would probably prefer this to some of the German rivals, just on the basis of the quality in here and Lexus reliability, stuff like that. But ultimately, I haven't spent a lot of time in like the Audi Q3. I hear that's a really pretty nice car too. So hopefully we'll get some more time in these smaller crossovers. They're hugely popular in the market these days. And if you guys are interested in one, take it for a test drive, see what you think. But these are my thoughts after about 300 miles and 6 days in this Lexus UX. I like this color too. It really pops in the sunlight. And you've got a nice Lexus key here too. Alright guys, well thanks for watching. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments. We've also uploaded a POV test drive video and a POV night drive video to the Winding Road YouTube channel. If you want to see those, be sure to head on over there to check them out. And of course, as always, these videos are recorded with in-ear binaural microphones. The best experience warrants the use of headphones. So if you haven't had headphones on for these videos, be sure to check them out, try it out, see what you think. It's kind of a different experience where you get a little bit more engaged with the sounds and the feel of what it's like to drive these cars. That's it for this one. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you later. Take it easy.